alaikum, everyone. Good day. Welcome to the 12th edition of the WiSER Wisdom series, where today's discussion revolves around navigating sustainability through to COP29 and beyond. I am your moderator, Fatima Al Hallami, and I am thrilled to be joined by our esteemed panelists who bring a wealth of knowledge and expertise to our conversation. Her Excellency, Dr. Nawal Al-Hosany, one of the UAE's leading figures in national and international efforts to accelerate the transition to a net zero economy through climate diplomacy, and Elena Siegel, a highly experienced consultant, currently a partner in Kearney's government and economic development practice. In this role, she works with leading government, ministries, and agencies to solve their most critical strategic issue. Before we dive into our discussion, let's reflect on the recent COP28 conference and its implications as we look ahead to COP29. COP28 delivered significant progress, most notably with the introduction of the UAE Consensus, marking a turning point in global climate action. This consensus has set a new standard for implementation and cooperation among nations, emphasizing the urgency of addressing climate change. Moreover, to ensure continuity and collaboration between presidencies, the UAE launched the co-presidencies Troika with Azerbaijan and Brazil, linking the efforts of COP28 with those of COP29 and COP30. This initiative underscores the importance of sustained cooperation in advancing global sustainability goals. Now, let's delve into our first question, which directly addresses the groundbreaking outcomes of COP28. Your Excellency, can you provide further details on the main outcomes of COP28, specifically focusing on the groundbreaking UAE Consensus and its impact on advancing global sustainability endeavors?
Thank you so much, Fatma. It is an absolute honor and pleasure to be sharing this platform with you and with Elena, and it's such an honor and such a blessing. I'm very glad and very happy to hear you saying groundbreaking, because you are absolutely right. You know, COP28 was a true groundbreaking global climate summit for many, many reasons. Especially, you know, as we saw, there was a lot of heavy criticism and skepticism of the UAE's ability to host an event the size of a COP. And as the UAE has so often done, we proved the doubters wrong. Our philosophy has always been challenges are opportunities. So we did aim and we succeeded to ingrain a new sense of optimism and hope through an unprecedented consensus. And our goal was to deliver on old promises and raise new ambitions on adaptation, mitigation, and means of implementation. So COP28 was a gathering of diverse voices coming together to achieve what once seemed very much impossible. So the UAE Consensus has laid down a roadmap for a just and inclusive energy transition, one that relies heavily on clean energy to support sustainable lives and economies. So focusing on the UAE Consensus, I believe the main headline from the consensus, of course, is that we now have a language on transitioning away from fossil fuel for the first time in a negotiated text. It's a very important and a vital starting point, but that's exactly what it is. It's a starting point. So we definitely need to move swiftly to implementation. And to do that, we need to mobilize finance. So mobilizing finance, as I'm sure you all heard, in total, COP28 mobilized more than $85 billion in funding, including $3.5 billion to replenish the Green Climate Fund, increasing the second to a historic $12.8 billion in total. $188 million were towards the Adaptation Fund, again, setting a very important pace for a new era in climate action. And we did launch the world's largest private market climate investment fund, which is Altera, $30 billion. We brought 52 national and international oil companies to agree on ambitious decarbonization targets. Looking at something that's very close to my heart, which is renewables. On renewables and energy efficiency pledge, tripling the renewables capacity to over 11,000 gigawatts by 2030, doubling an average of energy efficiency to 4% by 2030. But both will need to be achieved to pursue efforts to keep the 1.5 within reach, while definitely sticking to the Paris Agreement to keep the warming way below 2 degrees.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Now moving to Elena. In light of the discussions and agreements made at COP28, and as we pave our way into COP29, what is your evaluation on the current global sustainability state across environmental, social, and economic dimensions, especially when it comes to the unique challenges faced by women?
Thank you, Fatima. And I just would like to echo Her Excellency's comment. It is an honor to be part of this session today. So thank you very much for having me. I think it's very clear women remain one of the most vulnerable populations when it comes to climate change in the world. If you look at some of the UN statistics, out of the 1.3 billion people that currently live in a poverty situation, almost 70% of them are women. And that means that they are more vulnerable to any kind of disruption within the environment. And this is a major challenge, right? It has massive impacts in our abilities to meet the Sustainable Development Goals. And one of the things that we've seen is that there's significant focus on various mitigation measures, adaptations, developments that need to be put in place. And if you ask me about the broader efforts across the world today, one of the things that we need to make sure that we're doing is deeply embedding in all of these solutions the perspective of women, the knowledge of women, as importantly, because many of the women who do exist at the poverty level are actually some of the gatekeepers to understanding how to live in a more environmentally low impact fashion, even as they are more vulnerable to the shifts and changes that might happen. So take, for example, extreme rainstorms, extreme drought. All of these factors have an impact on women's ability to grow food, to be able to provide for their families. And because many of them, almost 50% of them, are operating at a level of illiteracy, it also means that their ability to move into other areas to provide for their families is limited. So when we're talking about solutions from an economic standpoint, from a social standpoint, we have to be actively embedding in everything that we're doing today the perspectives of women and the impact on women in those solutions, right? The technology solutions need to be able to be rolled out and embedded into these populations to both provide them with sustenance, but also to ensure that they are able to deploy them actively and effectively within their environments to provide in the immediate term. Because it is both an immediate term, midterm, and a long-term game. We have to be shaping things for now, while also providing a foundation and a platform for women to adjust, evolve, and progress in the future.
Thank you so much, Elena, indeed. Your Excellency, following the declarations and pledges related to renewable energy and gender perspectives at COP28, could you provide further details on the significance of examining these declarations from a gender lens approach?
Thank you so much for this very important question. As I just mentioned, the UAE consensus is set out a roadmap for a just and inclusive energy transition. Women's involvement is absolutely critical to the success of this ambition. The Gender Responsive, Just Transition and Climate Action Partnership, endorsed by 80 nations, epitomized this acknowledgement at COP in November. Now, to build on this partnership, we must ensure that we empower women and youth within the communities hardest hit by climate change, as we just heard, and those most in need of energy access, to ensure development opportunities are not restricted to only the developed world. One way we are doing this in the UAE, as you will know, as we all will know, is working alongside IRENA. We launched the Empowering Lives and Livelihoods Renewables for Climate Action Initiative. This initiative actually very important because it underscores the integration of renewable energy into vital sectors like agriculture and healthcare, while prioritizing the empowerment of vulnerable groups, particularly women and youth. We look within our borders and beyond, and we see exemplary initiatives where women are leading sustainable projects that can serve as blueprints for development. It's our responsibility as female leaders in climate and sustainability to leverage every and each platform an opportunity to advocate for policies and practices that include and benefit women. We definitely must harness our collective expertise, passion, and vision to foster innovative solutions that will not only sustain but also enrich our planet. And I hope we do so very, very quickly.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Elena, adding to what Her Excellency just explained, how does technology in tandem with policy frameworks and collaborative efforts among nations intersect to advance educational and labor-related aspects within sustainability initiatives?
So, I think, policy and technology always have to intersect very closely. And, we've seen that actually here in the UAE. We've done a tremendous job even in the UAE of bringing together policy environments that facilitate and encourage technology solutions that are actually really fit for purpose. And I think this is where, when we look at climate tech and other climate solutions, part of what we have to do is bring together a policy environment that provides educational opportunities to elevate the population to be able to not just contribute to the development of new solutions, but to deploy those solutions effectively. Back to a little bit what Her Excellency was saying and what I mentioned before, we have to create an environment where populations, and particularly our most at-risk populations, are in a position to feed insights into the system, take the solutions that come out, test them, refine them, and then deploy them again to help create a positive impact, not just on their own individual lives, but the environment and society overall. So the policy frameworks that I think are often most effective are those that are flexible while being comprehensive. And I think this is one of the factors that sometimes we try to find the full detailed solution. And I'm sure Her Excellency has faced this in her own work. We're so busy trying to find the perfect solution that it becomes quite rigid. And as policymakers, we need to actually be in a position where our frameworks provide enough space for creativity, provide enough space for innovations. And it's in those environments that we find the most powerful solutions. And that feeds through our education system from early stages all the way through higher education. Because the reality is, when you're building a technology-enabled population, it starts at the youngest ages. It's not something that starts when you have someone entering college. It starts with our 5-year-olds. That's the place where we capture their imagination. That's the place where they become passionate about finding solutions. So our policy frameworks, as they impact our educational systems, have to be set up in a way that encourages that these components of education, these ideas, these skills get woven in from the youngest ages so that it's pulled all the way through the system. And by the time they're college graduates or graduate school students, we have a strong population that's not just capable, but passionate about taking their knowledge, taking their skills, and applying it to some of these really intractable problems that we're trying to solve today when it comes to climate change, when it comes to climate impact. That's what we need to cultivate within our policy framework, within our education system, and then ultimately within our economic environment down the line.
Thank you, Elena. Your Excellency, could you provide examples of successful initiatives or projects that have emerged post-COP28, demonstrating effective collaboration and innovation in addressing sustainability challenges?
Actually, I'm going to refer to an example that you mentioned, which is the launch of the COP Presidency Troika, which includes, as you mentioned, the UAE, Azerbaijan, and Brazil, which marked leveling up for climate diplomacy. If you remember, it was launched at the World Government Summit. The Troika, if I may elaborate a little bit more details, set the course for continuity in purpose and ambition from one co-presidency to the next. It very interestingly lays the groundwork for a more cohesive and strategic global climate action framework. It definitely helps foster a sense of shared responsibility and mutual support among successive co-presidency, which never happened before. The Troika agreement enables a more integrated and proactive approach to ensure that each COP builds on the achievement of its predecessor to advance the global climate goals. So carrying the torch from the UAE to Azerbaijan and then to Brazil, building collective climate resilience requires a unified approach that transcends political and geographical boundaries. By aligning the efforts of successive co-presidency, we definitely going to create outcomes that benefit all rather than just a select few. This approach, I believe, not only ensures that the ambitious goals set in Paris and refined in the subsequent COPs are met, but also that they evolve to meet the changing needs of our planet and the inhabitants. It's important to point out that in the current geopolitical environment, we cannot achieve climate security without geopolitical security and stability. We definitely need a bedrock of stability firmly in place. We must develop collaborative frameworks like the Troika that recognizes the fundamental interconnectedness of climate change, peace, and recovery. We need to build on the COP28 Declaration on Climate Resilience, Recovery and Peace, which underscores the urgent need to create institutions that are more representative of global populations, emphasizing the connection between climate resilience and global stability. We need to acknowledge that peace and recovery are not only outcomes of effective climate action, but also prerequisites for its success. It is now down to our leaders to build those bridges and the foundations for lasting, sustainable peace and prosperity. Without them, I really don't think we can hope to meet the climate goals and ambitions that we have set to ourselves in the near, medium, and even the long-term future.
I just wanted to build on what Her Excellency has said here, which is one of the criticisms of COP historically has been the disjointed nature from one COP to the next. And when His Excellency, the president of COP28, Sultan Al-Jaber, brought together and spoke about what he wanted to achieve, he consistently said that it was going to be the COP of action. And in many respects, Your Excellency, I believe that the Troika was one of the key pieces that he's put in place to ensure the continuity and momentum from one COP to the next. The learnings from one COP to the next continue to get pushed through so that we build more momentum, so that we create more continuity overall from one year to the next. Because this isn't just 1 year at a time. This is a decade, 20 years that we have to continue to make these progressions. And if we don't maintain, as you said, a more joined up effort, we don't continue to build momentum around it, even within the quite volatile geopolitical context that we're all operating within today, you're right, we will never be able to achieve the outcomes that have been identified in COP28 or in the Paris Accords before that. So it is, to me, there are many significant achievements that came out of COP28, but I do think that this is maybe one of the quieter outcomes that may have some of the most significant impact over many years to come.
Absolutely. Very, very well said. Thank you. Thank you for this intervention. Thank you.
I would like to address the last question for both of you. What steps can individuals, organizations, and nations take to actively contribute to the implementation of the resolutions and agreements established at COP28, thereby nurturing a more sustainable future? Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Act for Impact. That was a campaign that we launched, and I would keep repeating it. We need to act for impact. We understand the challenges, we see the opportunities, we have the solutions, and we just need to start acting for impact.
Well, I love that slogan. I think it's an amazing campaign, Your Excellency. If I can add my own thought, I would say that your impact can be felt even if it is very small. While the coordination across global bodies is necessary and fundamental to achieving outcomes, what you can do from a grassroots standpoint is also incredibly high impact. All you have to do is look at the efforts of climate champions from years ago, like Wangari Maathai from Kenya, who started a movement to reforest Kenya after seeing all the trees cut down. It was one woman, one program, and look at the impact that she achieved. And that's all it takes. So act for impact, but don't ever believe that your contribution is too small. Don't ever believe that you can't bring others on your journey. Grassroots is incredibly powerful to address climate change in the future.
And if I may add, it does starts with you. So it starts with me, It starts with you, it starts with the individual. And that's the power of that's our power.
As our discussion draws to a close, I want to take a moment to express my deepest gratitude to our esteemed speakers for their invaluable contributions today. Your expertise and insights have truly enriched our conversation, shedding light on the complexities of navigating sustainability through to COP29 and beyond. I would also like to thank our audience for their participation and thoughtful questions. It's through our collective efforts that we can drive progress towards a more sustainable future. So let us carry forward the momentum from today's discussion and continue to collaborate, innovate, and advocate for positive change. Together, we can make a difference and create a world that is not just sustainable, but thriving for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. What a pleasure.